He looked right at a group of elderly people, scoffed, and said, "I don't see them standing in line, though," before smugly cutting in front of them. He thought he was clever, smarter than everyone else in that store. But later, at his campsite, stomach growling and coffee less, he learned the truth. You don't mess with the quiet ones. If you've ever wanted to clap back at someone who thought they could just get away with being a jerk, hit that subscribe button. Like this video if you've ever witnessed karma in real time. Drop a comment with your best revenge story. We might just feature it next. Let's get into it. So this happened just a few days ago at a grocery store in my neighborhood. It was one of those sticky, humid afternoons, the kind where everyone's just trying to get their errands done and get out of the heat. I'd picked up my usual groceries and was waiting in line, content to pass the time scrolling through my phone. Now, let me paint the setup for you. There were multiple checkout lanes, but right beside mine was the priority lane specifically reserved for senior citizens and people with disabilities. The store had even provided those little plastic benches so that folks who couldn't T-stand for long could wait comfortably. It was a respectful, thoughtful setup. On that day, there were a couple of elderly people quietly sitting on the bench, waiting their turn. They weren't causing a fuss. They weren't complaining. They were simply waiting. That's when he walked in. This guy looked like your typical loud, self-important type. Mid-30s, flashy sunglasses indoors, phone glued to his ear. His cart was absolutely stacked with camping supplies, like he was headed off for a weekend survival trip. Sleeping bags, instant noodles, paper plates, a portable stove, marshmallows. Even one of those mini lanterns. And then, in the tiniest corner of his cart, a single can of butane gas. One, just one. But it stuck out like a loaded checkmate piece on a board. Anyway, this guy walks right up to the front of the priority lane, doesn't look around, doesn't say a word. Just inserts himself in front of the elderly people already waiting there. At first, I was confused. Did he not see them? But then I realized, no, he saw them. He just didn't care. I leaned slightly toward him and said politely, "Hey, they're already in line." Without even turning his head, he smirked and said, "I don't see them standing in line, though." That exact tone, the smugness, it was like he had practiced that line for moments like this. The older folks. One woman looked down at her hands. Another man glanced at the floor like he wished he were invisible. No one said anything. Not the cashier. Not the other customers. Just silence. So I shut my mouth and I simmered. You know that feeling when your heart starts pounding for no apparent reason? When your ears get warm and 1,000 angry comebacks flood your brain, but none of them come out in time? Yeah, that I wanted to do something. Say something more. But I knew from experience that people like him, loud, arrogant, dismissive, they thrive on public conflict. He wanted attention. He wanted to be challenged so he could steamroll over someone and feel bigger for it. So I bit my tongue, and I waited. A few minutes passed. The lines slowly inched forward. I kept one eye on the guy, who was now animatedly chatting on his phone, laughing loudly like he was the star of his own show, oblivious to everyone around him. No respect for the elderly folks behind him. No acknowledgement that he'd cut in line. Nothing. And that's when I noticed something. That single can of butane in his cart, still sitting right on top of his gear, completely unattended. Now, I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, something in my brain clicked. A quiet little voice whispered, "He doesn't deserve to win today." He was still on the phone, turned away from his cart, gesturing wildly about something dumb, and I realized, this is it. This is my moment. So I casually stepped closer. Not too close. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough to reach over, pluck that butane can from his cart, and slide it smoothly into mine. No sudden movements, no rush, no one noticed. Not even him. He kept talking on the phone. Checked out his cart, pushed it forward like everything was perfectly in order, and he left. Still smug, still loud. still completely unaware that his brilliant camping plan had just developed a critical flaw. I paid for my groceries, including the butane, and left the store feeling a little lighter, a little victorious. Somewhere out there, I imagine this guy arriving at his campsite, probably bragging to his friends about how he handled that grocery line, probably laughing about the old people and how no one stood up to him. I like to imagine him setting up the tent, getting ready to show off his gear. Maybe cracking open a beer, placing the portable stove on a flat rock, lighting a match with flourish, and then reaching for the butane and finding ... nothing, no fuel, no flame, no hot food, no coffee, just raw, crunchy noodles and cold instant soup. In that moment, surrounded by trees and silence and maybe a group of unimpressed friends, I hope he realized something, that being clever isn't about talking louder than everyone else. Sometimes it's the quiet ones who deliver the real consequences. What's wild is how often people mistake silence for weakness. But silence, that's where the best revenge plans are born. You don't need to shout to stand up for what's right. Sometimes all it takes is one missing piece and a little patience. If you enjoyed that delicious taste of karma, give this video a like. Hit that subscribe button for more real stories where the underdog gets the last word. And drop a comment what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed. You might just see it featured in our next video. Until next time, remember, justice doesn't always yell. Sometimes it just removes the butane.